Hey everybody, Elle here. Thanks for joining. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. I come to you today with another quote from Ra. This is channeling, which is done by the groups of LL Research. You can find them at llresearch.org. But I like to read transcript from the material and comment on it, which I shall do. So today, this quote from Ra is from session 11.18. So in session 11, and I have both the question and the answer today. So the questioner, quote, "Then we have crusaders from Orion coming to this planet for mind control purposes. How do they do this?" Ra, quote, "As all, they follow the law of one, observing free will. Contact is made with those who call. Those then upon the planetary sphere act much as you do to disseminate the attitudes and philosophy of their particular understanding of the law of one, which is service to self. These become the elite. Through these, the attempt begins to create a condition whereby the remainder of the planetary entities are enslaved by their own free will." End of quote. Ra, the Law of One, session 11.18. All right, so there is, this is a big one, it's about enslavement and voluntary enslavement. So I suppose first we should talk about the calling part. At the beginning, they ask here, in the answer at the beginning, they say, "They follow the law of one, observing free will. Contact is made with those who call." So what does it mean to call if you're not aware? Well, calling is regarding your free will and what you are calling for. So using the LL Research Group as an example, there was 3 people who sought spiritual knowledge and enlightenment through the empowered call of all 3 of those seekers. It's like a signal was put out to the universe where any part of the universe can respond to that call if they match the corresponding need of that call. So as they sought spiritual information, they received the contact Ra, who describes themselves as a positively oriented service to others being. Those of the elite, who are negative service to self seekers, make a similar call out to the universe on how to manipulate, enslave, and become the elite. And that call is answered by a negative source in the universe who can teach the caller of the service to self philosophy. The caller, the entity on Earth, then uses that gained knowledge in creating the elite and non-elite on Earth and amassing its power and control. So you basically have 2 sets of calls, one for positively oriented information and one for negatively oriented information. The creator neither blinks at the dark or the light, and therefore, if you put out the call, you shall receive. Let's go into who are they? Who are the elite? So people always ask who they are, and when you speak of those of the elite that wish to enslave us, so I don't really care who they are. Understanding spiritual philosophy will have you understanding that there are sources of power out there. There are 2 ways to come into this power. One is through service to self polarity, and the other is through service to others polarity. If the source of power exists out there, you better believe that someone is out there trying to connect to that source. So you can probably discern who those of the elite are just by taking a look at the world, but I also assume that some of the most elite are the folks who don't show their faces to the public at all. So you may have an educated guess as to who the elite are, but you never know. There's probably somebody even above those people that you see. But to me, it's less important to define who it is that attempts to enslave us anyways, than it is instead just to use your free will to resist the voluntary enslavement mechanisms in your life. Like, we can tell others how to not fall for enslavement tricks, but ultimately this is a universe of free will, and the only entity that you're fully responsible for is yourself. You have the power and the ability to make the choices you make for yourself, and you don't get to make the choices for others else. It's okay to attempt to educate others on the matter, but my understanding is that the most effective teaching you do is through radiance of being, meaning how you do things speaks to people more than what you do. I believe Quo says somewhere else, it's not what you do, it's the love in your heart while you do that thing. So I don't want to speak to any specific types of enslavement. There's too many to choose from. And, I don't want to ruffle too many feathers. So what I will say is that through news media and technology, most enslavement is fairly automated. Algorithms and AI combine to determine certain ways of thinking and push people in that desired programming direction. I've noticed that eventually you don't need to enslave people the old-fashioned way. You can instead just keep chipping away at the foundation of a person's being until they are left with nothing but a need for outside reassurance that they are leading good lives, in quotation, good lives. The media lies and reaffirms what the foundationless people want to hear, and the people beg to be enslaved. They ask for it. It makes them feel safe and secure. It makes them feel right, because the majority of the group and media also parrots the same lines, which reassures all the slaves that all is well. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your head down. Don't ask questions. Just go along with what we say. And with that, one of the biggest weapons they have against us is group pressure. The want, the need even, to fit in. This is always weaponized against us because it's the most effective tool of coercion. They pretend that something absurd is actually totally acceptable and normal and keep repeating the lie until the lie becomes mainstream truth. Then, over a long period of time, you notice that most of the public is living a lie and absolutely loving it because they know of no alternatives. Advertisements are hijacking your desires, trying to tell you what you want and crave, and leave no room for any authentic, true desires of the heart of self to leak through. The heart is eventually buried with heaps of trash. That is what the media tells you, that you need to be happy. And even then, trying to be happy isn't really a goal. The goal is to be healthy and full of love, in my opinion. Happiness is a byproduct of living a healthy and meaningful life, but it isn't the end goal. The end goal is to serve. Through service, we find meaning. In meaning, we find joy. I hope you find some time today to focus on your purpose and meaning in life. I hope you step back and ask yourself that question: what do I desire? I hope you don't let these words lay too heavy on your heart as you look out at the world and you see the voluntary enslavement all around us. Ra mentions that the harvest will be small, but that's no reason to not put in maximal effort to serve. You do you, and your efforts will radiate out to others and give them strength to make their own choices. So through your own choices, you give strength to other people to make choices that they feel are coming authentically from their being. And that's about all I have to say on that today. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I didn't get any questions in email or Instagram yet for the Q&A, but I still want to try and answer a question publicly. If anyone has something they're curious or want my opinion on, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll keep your info private when I talk about it on the podcast. Otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of the week, and I will chat with you again on Friday. For now, the podcast is going to be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I can have time to have some me time in between and not get too overwhelmed with putting a lot of work into this. So that gives me a nice spread of days. We can do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Thanks everyone for the love and support, friendly comments. I read everything, although I don't always have the time to reply or thank all of you, but do know that I'm smiling as I read your comments. Have a great day. Much love.